Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I'm here to talk about more anticipated 2017 releases. So a little over a week ago, I did my first anticipated releases, and that video was all about the queer 2017 books that are going to be coming out this year. All of those books were books that featured queer main characters, and this is going to be a part 2 of other anticipated releases besides the ones that feature queer main characters. This list doesn't really have a particular theme, they are just other anticipated releases of mine. I have a couple of sequels on here, a couple of anthologies, and then just general books that I'm excited for going into the new year. So let's just jump in and get started because I have 17 to cover, I believe. So we are going to go ahead and start off with sequels, and the first one that I want to talk about is Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Seanan McGuire. This is the sequel to Every Heart a Doorway, and it is set to be released on June 13th. This book is actually going to function more as a prequel than anything else. There were these two characters in Every Heart a Doorway, these two twin girls, and this is a story about them. Every Heart a Doorway is about children who go through a doorway and wind up in another world where they feel they truly belong, and then somehow they wind up back here in our world and they don't know how to cope anymore. So this is the story of Jack and Jill and the worlds that they visited before they met up with the other characters in Every Heart a Doorway. I'm not 100% sold on this. I kind of liked that Every Heart a Doorway was a standalone, but I am very interested because I thought Jack and Jill had so much interesting stuff to say in terms of gender expectation and sibling expectation, so I'm still pretty excited to find out more about their worlds that they visited and to find out more about them as leading characters instead of side characters. I'm also really excited for Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. This is the sequel to This Savage Song, and it is also set to be released on June 13th. This Savage Song and Our Dark Duet function as duology, so these are going to be the only two in the series, which makes me really interested. This Savage Song is about a world where violence has begun to breed actual monsters, and depending on the severity of that violence, there is a different type of monster that is created. And the first book follows a boy named August Flynn. He is a monster who wishes to be human, and a girl named Kate Harker. She is a human who wishes to be monstrous. It was really fantastic, interestingly written. The world was so fascinating, and I cannot wait to see how this series wraps up in Our Dark Duet, which I think has a pretty beautiful cover, in my personal opinion. And the last sequel that I want to talk about is Shadowhouse Fall by Danielle José Older. This sequel is set to come out on September 12th, and it is the sequel to Shadowshaper. I actually have an entire standalone review for Shadowshaper. Should you be interested and want to go watch that, I will leave that linked on the screen. It is basically a YA urban fantasy series set in Brooklyn. It follows a girl named Sierra when she discovers a type of magic that infuses ancestral spirits with art or music or storytelling. She finds out that her family has a history of shadow shaping and that she is a shadow shaper herself. This was a super interesting first book in a series. There were so many discussions of body image, of gentrification. The entire cast is made up of Latinx characters. Basically, it was really fantastic, and one of the things that I wanted to see going forward was some more development of the side characters, so I'm really hoping that that comes through in the second book in the series, which doesn't have a cover yet, obviously, but I cannot wait to see it because the cover for Shadowshaper is beautiful. Next up, I want to talk about Garden of Blood and Dust by KK Pérez. This does not have an official release date yet, but, you know, hopefully soon. A lot of Simon Pulse books seem to not have release dates yet, which is... I would like release dates, please, Simon Pulse. This book is a YA fantasy inspired by the legend of Elizabeth Bathory, the world's first female serial killer. Currently, it is being crossed as a pitch between Maleficent and American Horror Story, and this has the potential to be all kinds of right for me. I'm curious to see where the fantasy element comes in, but overall, this sounds like it has a lot of potential, and I cannot wait to see how it develops going forward, maybe get a cover. I'm excited. Next up is a book called The Idiot by Elif Batuman, which is set to come out on March 14th. This is literary fiction set in 1995. It's marked as historical fiction, but since I was born in 1995, I am hesitant to consider 1995 historical fiction yet. It is about a girl named Selin. She is the daughter of Turkish immigrants, and she is going into her freshman year at Harvard. While she is going through her freshman year, she gets in contact through email with a math student in Hungary, and they sort of form a connection. And then after she finishes up her first year, she goes around Europe. She first stops in Paris to visit a friend, and then she is eventually heading to Hungary. And it seems like she's just examining her experiences and recognizing that her trip around Europe is not the same as many other American students claim theirs are. It seems to be a story about development and being on the cusp of adulthood, and I'm very, very excited to read this. I've been mentioning more recently that I have been trying to find more books set in college. I actually have a couple more on this list as well, so I think that this has some real potential, and I'm very excited. The next book I want to talk about is I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erika L. Sánchez, and this does not yet have a release date or a cover. This book follows a girl named Julia, and her older sister does appear to be the perfect Mexican daughter, that is, until she is killed. With her sister gone, all of the pressure falls onto Julia to become the perfect Mexican daughter, as well as her trying to figure out some of her sister's secrets. This sounds like it could be really, really interesting. I have a lot of high hopes for it, so come on, give me that cover. Next up is a book called Piecing Me Together by Reneé Watson, and this book is set to come out on February 14th. This book is about a girl named Jade who comes from a poor neighborhood in Portland, and her mother has always encouraged her to take every chance to get ahead, and then she winds up getting a scholarship to a very nice but mostly white school. This opens up a lot of positive opportunities for her, but it also, unfortunately, makes her a part of an opportunity that she's not as fond of, and this is something called Women to Women. It is a mentorship program for at-risk girls, which is really just code for a mentorship program for black girls from bad neighborhoods. And Jade has a real problem with her mentor. Despite the fact that her mentor is also black, that doesn't mean that she has any understanding of what Jade's life has been like up to this point. This looks like this is going to be a really, really fantastic YA book dealing with privilege and dealing with race and identity, and also a book about strengthening the power of young black women's voices. I think that this has the potential to be absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to read it. Next up is The Inexplicable Logic of My Life by Benjamin Alire Sáenz, and this book is set to come out on March 7th. So of course I'm excited about this book because I really, really love Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, and I am excited about the sequel to that coming out eventually. This is about a boy named Sal who has always thought he understood his place with his gay adoptive father, with their Mexican-American family, and with his best friend Samantha, but now he is a senior in high school and it feels like all of that is being thrown into question, and he has to relearn his place in life and where he fits into all of these little places. I feel like this is going to be a really, really beautiful exploration of family and friendship and identity, which Benjamin Alire Sáenz does beautifully, so I cannot wait to read it. Next is a book that actually has already been released, and that is Difficult Women by Roxanne Gay, and this did already come out on January 3rd. This is a short story collection, and it is all about so-called difficult women. It is about women from all walks and shapes of life, and it is supposed to create sort of a portrait of American women. I haven't read the entirety of Bad Feminist by Roxanne Gay, but I've read bits and pieces for various women's and gender studies classes. Of course, I read a lot of her other stuff that she's written, and I am very excited to read this. Next up is a book called Forest of a Thousand Lanterns by Julie C. Dow. This does not yet have a release date or cover. The basic summary of this book is that it is supposed to be a reimagining of the evil queen from Snow White, retold with Asian folklore and mythology. It is about a main character named Jifund and her desire to become empress and all of the things that she is attempting to do in order to get that position. This one sounds really, really interesting. I really would like to get more into reading retellings again this year. It's been a couple years since I've read them, and I love retellings, and this sounds like it has the potential to be fantastic. Cannot wait. Also, with no official release date as of yet, is Nice Try, Jane Sinner by Leanne Oelke. This is about a girl who is expelled from high school and reluctantly enrolls in a local community college. Jane Sinner decides to join a student-run reality show called House of Orange in an attempt to reinvent herself in a place where no one really knows who she is or what she's done in her past. College, reality show, those are both big words for me that make me interested in books, and I'm just very excited about this one. In another anthology that has also already been released, I want to talk about Flying Lessons, which was put together by Ellen O, and again, this one was already released on January 3rd. This is a middle grade anthology of 10 short stories written by a variety of authors, and it's all just sort of inspired by the We Need Diverse Books movement, of which Ellen O was a co-founder. I think the concept of We Need Diverse Books is the thing that holds all of these stories together, so it is going to contain a lot of different different diverse stories, and it just sounds really, really fantastic. There are some great authors attached to this. Authors like Seanan, Matt de la Peña, Jacqueline Woodson, and I am very excited to get my hands on this collection of stories and just see what they all hold. Next up is a book called American Street by Ibi Zoboi, which is set to be released on February 14th. This book is about a girl named Fabiola Toussaint, and her mother have just left Port-au-Prince in Haiti when her mother is detained by U.S. immigration. This leaves Fabiola on her own to try to navigate America, to try to understand her American cousins, and to find a place within American culture. This book sounds so many levels of fantastic. The author herself is a Haitian immigrant. I think this is going to hit on so many different valuable topics, and I just really want to get my hands on it immediately. Now onto a book which I feel needs absolutely no hype from me, and that is The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Albertalli, which is set to be released on April 11th. Becky Albertalli is of course the author of Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which I read for the first time last year and really did enjoy. So I'm excited about her new book. This book follows a teenager named Molly Peskin who is terrified of rejection because her history has taught her that fat girls have to really be careful. Her twin sister Cassie really tries to help, but she can only do so much, and then all of a sudden, Cassie gets a girlfriend and she is completely lovesick. Luckily, the new girlfriend comes with a potential love interest for Molly, which is exciting, but she also has to deal with the fact that she has this co-worker, and she is very aware that she could never become romantically involved with this co-worker. Maybe. I think that this has the potential to be just as cute as Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda was, but it is about girls, which makes me a lot more excited. I just care a little bit more. While Cassie and her girlfriend are a side story, of course I'm always here for side queer ladies, but also this is an Own Voices book that features Jewish main characters, and that really excites me. I don't think I've read nearly enough, and so I think that I'm going to potentially really love this book. I think that it's going to be cute and fun and romantic, and I'm really excited. Next up is a book called Final Girls by Riley Sager, and this is going to be released on July 11th. This is a thriller following a girl named Quincy Carpenter, and 10 years ago she went on a vacation with her friends but was the only one to return alive after a horror movie scale massacre. This makes her part of a very exclusive club called the Final Girls. This is a club no one wants to be a part of because it is made up of girls who are the sole survivors of these terrible, horrific events. Besides Quincy, there are 2 other girls, and none of these 3 have ever met. That is until Quincy is finally starting to adjust to her life, and one of these final girls turns up dead, and the other one turns up on Quincy's doorstep asking for her to become involved. This means Quincy is pulled into a mystery, she is pulled into one of the darkest memories of her past, and this sounds so good. The concept in general to me is sort of genius. I think it has the potential to play off of a lot of horror movie tropes, and I am just so hopeful that this ends up being fantastic because it sounds so good. Now on to my number 2 most anticipated release, and that is Your Welcome Universe by Whitney Gardner, which is set to come out on March 7th. This book follows a girl named Julia, and she is kicked out of her school for the deaf when she covers up a slur written by her best friend with graffiti. While the graffiti is lovely, it is not appreciated. Thus, she is kicked out, and she is sent to a more mainstream school where she becomes an outcast as the only deaf student. What she does cling on to at this new school is graffiti. Unfortunately, it seems like she is slowly becoming engaged with an all-out graffiti war with someone who is constantly trying to one-up her work. The main character of this book, Julia, is Indian. She has 2 moms, she's deaf, and this sounds so good. Plus, it is also supposed to include art by the actual author that is throughout the story. This is already getting some really fantastic reviews, and I think that it is going to be a really fresh voice in YA, and I cannot wait for it. And the final book that is my most anticipated release of 2017 is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which is set to come out on February 28th. This is a young adult book that is inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement. It is about a girl named Star, and she lives sort of a split life between the poor neighborhood she lives in and the more posh neighborhood she goes to school in. Star then becomes the sole witness to a fatal shooting of her best friend Khalil by a police officer. This book is already getting incredibly good reviews. I've been trying to get my hands on an ARC. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened, but luckily this book does only come out in about a month and a half, and I highly encourage you to go and pre-order it, to go and find it, to ask for it at your library so it is there. I think this story is going to be impactful and valuable, and I just cannot wait to read it, but I also cannot wait for it to be out in the world for so many other people to read as well. Okay guys, there you go. Those are all of my most anticipated releases for 2017 that don't feature queer main characters. There are more that I have not mentioned in either of my lists, so I will leave a link to my Goodreads anticipated list down in the description below. You can go and check that out. Just as a reminder, because I think sometimes people forget, if you can't pre-order any of these books but you really want them, ask for them at your library. Ask that your library orders them. That supports the author, it supports the library system, plus you get to read the book. It's a great, great thing for everybody. If I have missed any of your most anticipated releases, please let me know what those are down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!